Welcome to Ex Machina. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Good evening, folks, and thank you all for joining us on another edition of Ex Machina. In the house tonight with me is Robbie Rip Rains and Carrie Pocket Doc Davis, and we got a good show for you guys tonight. We're going to be talking about the Jersey Devil, which is really a pretty fascinating subject. Robbie's dug into it quite a bit. Doc's got a connection that has had a first-hand sighting of the Jersey Devil recently. So sightings are still happening. So we're going to be digging into that here in a minute, but let's welcome everybody to the show. We're already getting quite a few people in the chat. Chat's really flying tonight. Thank you guys for being with us. We really appreciate it. Robbie, how the hell are you, brother?
Doing pretty good. How you?
I'm good. Doc, how the hell are you, brother?
Wyatt, I am rolling.
God, I never get tired of that. Boys, I'm glad you could both be here tonight. Unfortunately, Steve's working, but we'll try to have fun anyway. Been a pretty good week. I mean, all things considered, it certainly could have been a hell of a lot worse. I know Robbie's been busier in a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, but sometimes busy is good.
Yeah, being busy the way I was, making sure that things are put in place and making sure that those kiddos know what to do in situations. That's a good type of busy.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Yeah.
Same here.
Absolutely. Robbie's protecting kids and Doc's packing birthdays in boxes. So, they're both doing the Lord's work as far as I'm concerned. Helping folks, and that's what it's all about. We've been pretty busy around here. Been working on book stuff, and Noah and I are starting to get the new store ready. Hopefully, we'll have it ready to go here in the next month. We've got it designed basically, but we're still creating new merch for the store. So, if you've got anything you want to grab on the old store, you might want to grab it now because it's probably going to come down in the next 30 days.
Get it while it's hot.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it.
And if you guys got anything you would like to see, like specific hoodies or anything like that, or T-shirts, shoot me an email or shoot us a message here and let us know, because we are putting up some new designs and we'd love your input on it. Hey, not Marty's in the house. Hi,
Yep.
Marty.
Hey, Marty.
Marty.
So, boys, what do y'all know about the Jersey Devil?
I almost say I know more about it than I really want to, because it's one on the surface. It's kind of one of those things that people just kind of write off as it's just it's just one of them folk tales. I mean, I think it gets people talk about it and know about it, but I think it gets less of a serious nod or look at than Bigfoot or Loch Ness or anything like that. I think it's just one of the but think about it. This is the only cryptid that a professional sports team is named after.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, a pro hockey team named the New Jersey Devils. I mean, you may have some minor league teams that have some names, but that
the Saskatchewan Sasquatches.
Yeah, something like that. But I mean, think about it. That's some elite status at the very least.
You've got the Kraken.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's not many, if there is one.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. But the Jersey Devil is the only one I think is really a cryptid. I think the Kraken was just a real thing,
just
giant
a big
squid.
But and another thing that when Johnny and I started digging into this that I found was just like mind blowing, because I know a lot of people, you hear New Jersey, what do you think about?
Jersey Shore,
the city, and
the city. Yeah, I mean, it's called the Garden State for a reason.
The Pine Barrens are over 1 million acres.
Yeah, man.
Blew my mind.
1.1 million acres.
Yeah, that's completely blew my mind.
I mean, dude, you get out of the cities, you get out of the, like Patterson and Newark and all up in there along the what Atlantic City and everything. You go inland, and man, it's beautiful. That's why they call it the Garden State. It's green.
See, my only experience with New Jersey was being in the Jersey Turnpike.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't that's a whole different kind of wilderness there. So it blew my mind that there's a 1.1 million acres of untouched forest.
Yeah.
In
a lot of people just fail to realize how much untouched wilderness there still is left in the U.S. And most people think that we've gone from sea to shining sea, that it's all civilized now, and that is far from the case.
Yeah,
I mean, if you look at Google Maps alone, just the satellite view, you will see miles upon miles of unbroken green.
Yeah, just like that movie. I just watched it again recently, Last of the Dogmen, and they were talking about fantastic.
I just rewatched that again a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and they were talking. Remember the DA? They said, there's land up there people never set a foot on.
Yeah. Well, they say that same thing about the Mark Twain National Forest here in Missouri. That there are parts of the deepest part of the Mark Twain where they don't know that anybody's ever been.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people, that's just something that they can't wrap their minds around, because we are so conditioned and so everything is, in the city and everything's here and everything's, even if you live out in the country like I do, you're still within, 10 miles of a major city to where you can go and get just about anything you want. And people are just so conditioned to that, even living out in the outskirts of the city, people just don't think about how much, like DA said, how much untouched country that there actually is.
It's mind blowing. It really is.
Yeah. Well, the Jersey Devil was originally known as the Leeds Devil because it was, up until the early 1900s, it wasn't even called the Jersey Devil. But there was a lady named Jane Leeds, also known as Mother Leeds.
Mother Leeds.
And according to the legend, when she got pregnant with her 13th child, she was quoted as saying, "Let this one be the devil." And when it was born, it came out normally and then quickly turned into this thing, attacked everybody in the room, and then flew up the chimney. Sightings from this go back about 250 years. I mean, they've been seeing it all over the place, from all over New Jersey and even parts of southern Pennsylvania. One of its most famous sightings was by Joseph Bonaparte, brother of Napoleon, who actually saw it outside his house. He had fled to the United States after Napoleon was sent to Elba, I think the second time, and he was a fairly wealthy landowner in that area, and for him to go on the record as saying it is pretty interesting, because generally the landed gentry didn't go on the record for crap like that. But that's one of the most famous sightings is from Joseph Bonaparte. But they're seeing it even today. What were you going to say, Robbie?
I was just going to say, I mean, add that to like Daniel Boone and Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, Rob Lowe has had encounters. I don't know that he's actually had a sighting, but he's had encounters. I mean, there's a lot of famous people that are starting, well, not starting to, because you got to go back and see the ones like we just mentioned. But that just, how do we still live in a time where people are like, oh, people are crazy when they say this? When you get people, Napoleon's brother said he saw it. I mean, and there was no 15 minutes of fame back then like there is now.
Right. He had nothing to gain from it.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to make it. I mean, he was already pretty famous. He was Napoleon's brother. I mean, he may not have been Napoleon, but everybody knew who his brother was.
Yeah. So,
I mean, there's nothing to gain from it, like Doc said. So you got to look at it, like we talked about the one in the Okeechobee? The story we did, DA. Was that the Okeechobee
the Okeechobee?
I know we got it wrong either the first time or we got it wrong when we talked about it again. Anyway, those guys didn't have anything to gain by coming out and saying what they saw. It was just, okay, this is what we saw, and everybody just took them for what, took it at face value. Oh, okay, you saw that? Well, we're going to send some people in here to hunt whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I can't understand why we're at the point where people are supposed to be so smart that they can't say, okay, well, there's so much open space and untouched country. Maybe there is something like this that we just hadn't found yet, especially with just finding something like the Billy Ape in what, 98 was it, DA?
98 or 99.
Yeah.
Sonia Morgan says, is the Jersey Devil supposed to be a dog man of some type or something different? I honestly don't know. Robbie, you do want to describe what it looks like?
Well, and that's the funny thing. There's, you can listen and, you know what I'm talking about when I say this, Doc. There's never 2 or 3 people that describe this thing exactly the same. There's people that describe it as having a type of almost like a horse head. There's people say it has a goat head. There's people say it has a head like a more like a canine. People that say it has horse hooves. There's people that say it has clawed feet. I mean, everything. That's why I think this is. There may be something out there that falls into the cryptid, but I think the Jersey Devil itself is more of a supernatural type thing, because it's one of those things that just appears however it feels like appearing.
Well, playing devil's advocate here, and I'm not saying that I necessarily believe this, I'm just throwing it out there, is there's those that believe that it is that hammerhead bat. Because that bat gets pretty big, and it has a vaguely horse-looking head.
Yeah.
But what people fail to realize is that bat is native to the Caribbean, not the Jersey Pine Barrens. It's cold.
That would be the big.
Yeah, it's a tropical.
The big linchpin in that theory. So
yeah, it wouldn't survive the winters in Jersey.
And one of the stories that I read that I thought was really intense. And so just to paraphrase it, there was a couple that lived in a house, and I don't know if it was like right on the edge or if it's actually, just right up to her, or if it was a little bit further away, but it was pretty close to the one of the edge of the Pine Barrens. And another thing about that, there's a 1,000,000-gallon aquifer in the Pine Barrens too. So there's a lot of water in that place too.
Well, there's also tons of Bigfoot sightings in the Pine Barrens.
Yeah.
Yep.
And dogman, because there's some people that say that they think the Jersey Devil may be a dogman instead of.
I tell you another story that came out of the Jersey Pine Barrens is what they call Mantis Man. He's been seen by about a dozen people.
Yeah, but see that's. Well, get with this story first. The people lived at this house, and it was snowing, or it had just snowed. I can't remember if it had started or if it was snowing, but they heard something, or howl, scream, screech, whatever it was, and then 30-ish minutes later, they hear something on the roof of their house, and it was already dark. The guy wanted to go out and check. The wife's like, "No, don't go out there. Just wait till in the morning. It's dark, can't see. Just wait." Of course, they kind of argued a little bit back and forth, but he finally decided, okay, I'll go check it in the morning. Well, he goes out in the morning, and he goes out to the side where he heard the screams, and he doesn't see anything. Like I said, it was fresh snow, so he would have seen tracks. So he's walking around looking, and he turns around and looks, and he sees tracks on the top of his house. It goes all the way up to the ridge line, walks, or kind of like starts at the corner, walks up, hits the ridge line, walks to the ridge line, and then stops. So he's like, okay, well, he goes on the other side of the house, nothing. There's no tracks on the other side of the house. There was no tracks leading up to it, but there was tracks on the roof line, going up to the ridge pole, walking out, and then no tracks on the other side.
Well, that sounds like something that flew. Doc, there was a question for you in the chat.
Doctor, I'm not a doctor.
He's a man nurse.
Yeah, a family of 7. Who? Probably like a hard case, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'd look at the hard case for sure. I don't even have one here. I own the business. I don't even have one.
Well, I don't have any of my kits within easy reach.
Yeah, probably a hard case. I'd say hard case. Sorry, Robbie.
Sweat off my nose.
I was trying to
So that thing was,
send a little business Doc's way.
I appreciate it. So that thing was walking around on the roof of the house.
Yeah.
And then just disappeared off of it like a
Well,
fart
it
in
was
the wind.
either the Jersey
Yeah.
Devil or Santa Claus.
Yeah.
But like I said, no tracks leading up to the edge of the house. Tracks on the side of the roof up to the ridgepole, and like I said, they heard something walking on the roof that night, and then no tracks anywhere else around the house.
Yeah.
That's kind of creepy when you start thinking about it.
Yeah, that's really creepy. And from where the tracks disappeared on top of the house, there was no tracks. Was it snow, you said?
Yeah,
So there was no tracks down on the ground below it, like it didn't jump off the roof.
nah, because that's what when he walked up, because he walked towards the direction of where they had heard the scream or screech or howl, whatever it was that they heard the night before. He walked out there to see if he could see anything. He didn't see anything. When he turned around to go back to the house, that's when he saw the tracks on the top of the house. I think it had already snowed, and there was no fresh snow covering it. And I think that's how the story went.
Yeah.
He turns around to go back to the house and sees the tracks leading up the side of the house to the ridgepole, and then walking out to the edge of the ridgepole. And then he's like, okay. So he goes over to the other side of the house and looks, and there's nothing.
Pine Knot Yoder says it was probably in the attic. I think that's more terrifying than it flying off.
Oh, crap, man.
Have that damn thing running around in your attic up there?
Well, Pine Knot, since they told the story, I'm assuming it probably wasn't in the attic. But yeah, that's nightmare fuel to think something like that. Yeah, that's a disturbing story.
Yeah.
And Antelope Pennon says it's flying. It's seen more in the air than flying out of trees. Yeah, most of the sightings involve it flying. But there's one that doesn't, and it's kind of chilling. Doc, I'll let you set this one up and read the encounter, since, well, you're the one that got the story.
Say when.
When?
All right, so this is from a buddy of mine. Known him for several years, and he's originally from Jersey. We had talked about this a while back, and I told him, I said, yeah, we might even be doing a show, and he's on this, and he said, I've had an experience with one. And I said, oh, do tell. So he sent this in, so I'm just going to read the account as he wrote it out. So this happened back in 2012. So he said, I was hiking in the Maurice River Bluffs Preserve in Cumberland County in mid-October. It was me and my then girlfriend, her friend, the friend's boyfriend. We had gone in the late afternoon to go out to the old grain elevator ruins to take photos with the fall foliage. He's a photographer too. He loves doing photography. So I'd been out there before to hike and trail run, and there were some cool spots along the river to stop, an old rail line ruin. And we stayed way longer than we should have, and it started to get dark. Well, we got off trail and started following the yellow trail and got turned around. Well, it's pretty dense pine forest with thorny brambles and cedar brush, so it gets real dark real fast near dusk because that forest just blots all the sunlight out. We had no flashlights or anything other than our phones because we didn't anticipate being out there that long. My camera had died earlier, so I put it in the bag I was wearing, and we got off the trail and followed a deer path in the direction we thought the red loop was. I guess these trails are color-coded. The red loop was so we could get back to our cars. While we were walking, we found a partly devoured fresh deer carcass with the flesh ripped up and with teeth marks on the bones, consistent with a large predator, which there ain't none in Jersey. A few minutes later, all the sound cut out. No birds, no bugs, nothing. Well, we saw some movement down in a marshy low spot with a cedar where the cedar brush, and there was stagnant water down there. And there was this unbelievably tall, dark figure covered in what looked like shaggy, dark, almost mossy fur. Couldn't see its trunk well, but it had legs with knees that bent backwards like a horse's rear legs. And it was mid-calf deep in the water. so it couldn't see his feet. It had vaguely humanoid arms, but the proportions were off, and they looked really long and too spindly with what looked like may have been taloned claws. And it looked like it may have wings, but they were folded up behind it. It was leaned over, looking down at the water when we saw it. Then it seemed to become aware of us and turned its face directly at us with an odd, almost creaking sound. Its face was lighter in color, almost like a horse skull, but with horns like a deer. Smaller, curved inward towards midline and asymmetrical. Its eyes were just shadowy pits, but I could tell it was looking at us. It started to shift towards us, pushing against some logs with its clawed hands, but I felt it felt like it was almost curious, but also malevolent. My blood ran cold. Every hair on my body stood up. Its horns got tangled in some branches as it moved, and there was a high-pitched screeching noise like I've never heard. And we blindly ran through the woods until we stumbled out on the Silver Run Road, and we refused to go back into the woods as we walked the rest of the way to the parking lot, the trailhead along the road, and got out of there. I've never gone back.
Well, that sounds like a brown pants moment.
What time is it, Robbie?
Time to get the hell up out of here.
So, I mean, the thing is, man, I know this dude really well, and man, he has no reason to embellish. He's not looking for 15 minutes of fame, and I don't know how many people he's told that to, but he told me, and I was like, look, I'm not going to say your name, anything like that, but it was something like that, and the level of detail. So that's pretty scary right there, to be quite honest with you.
Very much so.
So yeah, I mean that's a heck of a sighting, and I'm in his camp on this one, y'all. I mean, I don't think I'd be heading back in that area unless, at all.
Well, that doesn't sound anything like a hammerhead bat to me.
No. I mean, because I asked him, I said, how tall? He said, man, at least 6-7 feet.
But see there, and I'd already read that story because you sent it to us earlier, and I knew where I was going with. But see there again, that's a completely different description than any other description I've ever heard. I've never heard a description like that before.
And with the exception of the legs and the wings, it almost sounded kind of. I mean, it's not emaciated looking. It almost sounded kind of like with the head and the horns and the spindly arms, kind of Wendigo-ish.
Yeah, that's the hammerhead bat. While freaky looking, it does not match the description your buddy gave.
No. I mean, that's a big unit right there.
Yeah, that is a big rascal, but that doesn't look like something that would take a deer down and leave teeth marks on the bone.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, those only eat like fruit and stuff like that, right?
I believe so. I believe they're herbivores. I believe. I would have to double check that. It's the largest bat in continental Africa, with wingspans approaching 1 meter. That's just over 3 feet.
Because
I
think those are bigger than.
Definitely not.
Those are bigger than the flying foxes too, right?
Yeah. Males are almost twice as heavy as the females. It's frugivorous, consuming variety of fruits such as figs, bananas, and mangoes. Though a few instances of carnivory have been noted.
This is what Misty says. She likes bats, but that looks like it stole the head off a camel.
It does look like that.
Yeah, it is not a pretty animal.
No, it is definitely not a pretty animal.
It just looks like it's going to look at you and say, "Oh, Wilbur."
Well, look at this. Don Donaldson said, I saw a show called Paranormal State. They did a show on the Jersey Devil, and they got something on a FLIR cam. It had a horse head, was on 2 legs, and you could see the wings on its back.
Ew.
There's a lot of weird stuff spotted.
Interessante.
And like Robbie was saying, it's 1.1 million acres. So something big could easily thrive.
Man, yeah, for sure, dude.
You know, that's why I threw it about the million-gallon aquifer in there. I mean, so obviously it's got a water source. It's got plenty of food because there's plenty of deer out there in those pine barrens.
Exactly.
I mean, something or some things big could very easily
Well,
survive out there.
and you know, and the way on his story, he was talking about how they actually saw teeth marks
On the bone.
indicative on bone. That's indicative of something pretty doggone big. You know what I
To
mean?
leave teeth marks to leave teeth marks in bone takes a pretty big animal. I mean, a raccoon maybe over time, but you know, if you're gonna see noticeable teeth marks on the bone, that takes something with some pretty big teeth.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah, but like I said, you know, there's actually more than one version of the story with Mother Leeds. You know, there's the one that DA gave where, you know, she had her 13th kid. She said, this one belongs to the devil. There's another one that's kind of the sort of the same way. She said, if I have this child, the devil take him, saying she didn't want it, so she gave it to the devil. Then there was another one that the family was cursed because of something else. And then there's the that she cursed the child because there's supposedly Mr. Leeds was cheating on her. And
with 13 kids, old dude probably too busy at home.
Yeah. So
How
there's
does he have energy?
it's not like, you know, there's not just one defined story and one
Well, there's
defined.
also a version of the story where she was allegedly a witch. And
Yeah, I
it
read
was the
that one.
child of the devil.
Yeah, I've read that one as well.
So this one, like I said, it's really interesting when you get into it, but I don't think it gets enough. I don't want to say love, but it doesn't get enough attention. I think because it is really the story behind it is really interesting too. But when you start getting into all the different encounters and sightings and things like that, and you know, there's like maybe one or two things that'll follow along that are kind of the same, but the whole encounter, people say feel the same way, really scared, terrified, like you said, Doc felt malevolent. But there's just so much different and so much overlay it's wild to get into.
Yeah.
And,
Now
most people, go ahead, Doc.
so I'm curious. Have they had any human attacks documented or?
Yeah, well, there's been people disappear up there,
Right.
And obviously it's it's 1 million acres, so yeah, people are going to disappear. But there was a couple that was out riding 4-wheelers, and they found the 4-wheelers, never found them. But what was bad about it, or weird about it rather, is where they found the 4-wheelers, they were just like maybe 30, 40, 50 yards from coming out of the Pine Barrens and that to their house. So they were almost there.
Wow.
In an area they probably knew well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it was close to their house, then they were.
That's familiar territory. Yeah.
So there, of course, there again, nobody's saying that the Jersey Devil did it, but still, it's very, very weird.
Yeah. Very weird.
So, what do you guys think it is? Do you think it's some, deformed kid that was born to the Leeds family? If so, it's practically immortal because they've been seeing it for 250 years.
Right.
Do you think it's an unknown cryptid, an unknown species? Do you think it's that bat, or do you think it really is something demonic?
I think it's something supernatural or demonic because nobody has an encounter with the Jersey Devil and comes out like a Bigfoot. Oh, it was so beautiful, and it was just this peaceful.
Right.
Well, that was all Native American land before,
But
Europeans
you think about
got here.
Even with Dogman sightings, it's kind of split. Some people are like yours, DA. You saw it, and there was you felt like it's just an animal you were looking at. It just wanted to get away. But then there's people that are like, oh, okay, this thing, horror, terror, hellhound, all this kind of stuff. So they're kind of split. I don't know. I was not able to find any sighting when I did the did the research for our show, and I couldn't find anybody that said they saw it that was like, "Oh, it was just so cool. I just wanted to go follow it in the woods." Everybody was like, "No, it."
Yeah. Now, I mean, like 99 years ago in Greenwich Township, they said a farmer shot some. He said it was some unidentified animal attacking his chickens. And when I was reading this, it said that he had showed the animal to, and then photographed his corpse. Of course, there's no record. There's no known photo in existence anymore. But he said he claimed that he showed it to 100 people and nobody could tell what it was, could identify it. So, I mean, I don't know. Was that it? I mean, it's pure speculation because, you know, like Robbie said, if it's supernatural, if it's something demonic, man, then is modern or modern armaments gonna do anything to it, or is it just gonna tick it off? You know what I mean?
Well, that account your friend had, it was clearly eating that deer.
Right.
So that means if it eats, it's physical. But as to what it is beyond that,
Well, I think this is one of those situations like where there is something, like you said, it's Native American land before that. I think there's just like the LBL. I think there's something there, but there may be some type of cryptid there that gets seen, whether it be a dogman, whether it be a gugway, whatever it may be. I think you've got something flesh and blood living in there too, but I don't think it's one of the, the friendly Harry and Henderson, Patty Gimlin versions. I think it's, one of the more you don't want to mess with them types.
Right.
Because like I said, there's nobody that goes in there and most people, when they go into that place and they come out, they say it's that same feeling that, we talk about that we had at Joe Bald, or, like we talk about at the LBL, just that it's just that you can't really describe it. Just that oppressive feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard a lot of people use those words and those descriptors that, are just like, man, that was just, I didn't like being in that place, Yeah. So I think there's, I don't think it's just one thing. I think there may be some type of spirit or demonic entity that's doing a lot of stuff over there. But I think it's 1,000,000 acres. You're probably gonna have cryptids in there too, because a dogman or some type of Bigfoot would have very easily left the teeth marks that your buddy saw.
Oh yeah.
But now, as far as the description of it, I don't know. Jury's still out on that one.
I have no idea, bro, at all.
I was looking at maps of ley lines. It looks like there might be a line running through there, but I can't tell exactly on this map. This map is not accurate enough to really pinpoint it down.
Tyler looked it up when we did our show, and I think what we determined is, as the crow flies, it was 60-ish miles from it. I can't remember 100% because that was 3 or 4 months ago when we did that show. But it wasn't far. It was definitely close enough to where it could be affecting things.
Boys, we're at the bottom of the hour. Doc, you want to tell us a little bit about Dark Angel for 30 seconds to 45 seconds?
Sure, man. So let me make sure I do this right. I'm going to go ahead and put a stopwatch on so I don't exceed my time limit. So, folks, head over to darkangelmedical.com. We have been doing this for a few years. This is part of my life. This is part of my philosophy. I love what I do. I think I'm called to do it. And if you go to Dark Angel Medical, check out our wide variety of trauma kits, major trauma, minor trauma, anything from an ouch pouch up to the St. Mike bag. And if you don't know how to use it, that's cool, because we can also do some training for you. We do training in person all over the United States. And that is, to me, the most important aspect of it, is not only having the product, but knowing how to utilize it in a bad situation. We're FSA, HSA eligible. And if you go to darkangelmedical.com and use the coupon code Cryptid20, that'll give you 20% off of your order. So head over to darkangelmedical.com, get a kit, get trained, and be the difference.
Absolutely. And don't forget to use discount code Cryptid20 for 20% off your entire order.
That's right.
So, with that story in mind that your friend had, I definitely think that is not a hammerhead bat. I know people that swear
Yeah.
up and down that the mystery is solved, that the Jersey Devil is just a hammerhead bat. But we're talking about people going missing like off the four wheelers. What your friend saw, that's not a bat. Those bats didn't have horns. They didn't get anywhere near that big. A wingspan of 1 meter, that is not that big. Plus, they're primarily frutivores. They eat fruit.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're
They like them nanners. They don't like chickens.
And mangoes. David Blaylock says, "Are aliens demonic in y'all's opinion?" I really don't know what to think on that.
I mean, everything could be possible. I mean, it's strictly on an opinion basis thing. Yeah, that's a good possibility that something like that could happen, or could be rather. But if you look at it, the technology, if it was demonic, it would have technology and it would be far superior to ours. So it could appear as alien, and that's just the only word we know to prescribe on it. But also, it could be just a very advanced race. So I'm not going to go out on a limb and say, yes, I believe that aliens are demonic or one way or the other. I'm just going to say that there's stuff out there that I can't explain and I can't understand. And I don't know.
With you.
Me neither.
I can't explain it.
Gets kicked by a mule, his eyes crossed, falling a well, they go straight. I don't know.
So, do you think the Jersey Devil is demonic?
Now that I will go out on a limb and say I believe that.
You think it's possible that the Pine Barrens are just cursed because of this thing?
I think so. I think we've got certain areas, LBL, Jersey, Pine Barrens in Jersey, maybe Werewolf Springs. There's a lot of talk about that. I think there are certain places that there's just bad juju. And I think I mean, what we talked about, the LBL means cursed land, I think. So,
yeah, that area when it was known as Land Between the Rivers was known as cursed land. The tribes in the area didn't hunt there. I wonder if there's a similar creature in the native tribes lore from that area. Does anybody know what native tribes are indigenous to that area?
yeah, we talked about it, but I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. Let me see if I can find it for you.
Is it Algonquin?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I thought Algonquins were closer to the Great Lakes.
Shit, man, I don't know.
Wampanoag, maybe? There's so many tribes. I'll Google it.
Let's see.
Ramapaw Lenape, Nanticoke, Powhatan. Yeah, New Jersey state recognized tribes: Nanticoke, Powhatan, Ramapaw. That's the ones I'm seeing on the Google machine.
Yeah. I might have to do some research into into their legends and lore.
It's according to this, the Lenape, which was also known as the Delaware, were the most well-known Native American tribe to live in the Jersey Pine Barrens.
Yeah. Yeah, so, the Nanticoke Lenape. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, anything's possible because if you look back at the if you look back at the old way back in the Wayback Machine, there were some supposed to be a curse on that land.
Well, I'm sure that was probably like a lot of the other land, that was taken by force, or
Right.
or pennies on the dollar. Here,
just like the Mothman theories, I mean, the legend of that, where it was all cursed land.
Yeah.
Ryan pulled some for us. The Hackensack, the Raritan, the Aquacannock, the Tappan, and Pompton tribes. Ryan, if you know of any Native American legends from any of those tribes that might correlate to the Jersey Devil, let me know. To me, that seems like something for a deep dive at a later point. I can't really do it while we're on the air, but it's certainly interesting to check into, to find out if there was a similar type creature in their lore before the Leeds Devil was ever concocted. Chris Burkhardt says, is there a tribe that doesn't have terrifying creatures? Pretty much not. Yeah. I think they've all got some creepy stories.
Yeah. For sure.
Vicky Dennison says, well, do they think that the Jersey Devil is eating any way resemble a dog man? I think the only similarity between a dog man and the Jersey Devil is the hawked legs. I think that's pretty much where the similarities begin and end. I've never heard of a winged dog man story, and they describe the head of the Jersey Devil being more horse-like. Art 12796 says, yeah, Skinwalker supposedly from a cursed thing too. Ryan says, closest you get to the Jersey Devil are the flying heads, but I think those are from the Iroquois.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, if you've got 1 million acres, it's not just one thing. It's one apparition or one cryptid. There, pull a doc word out. There could be a plethora of bad things with bad intentions.
A veritable cornucopia of cryptids.
I love it. Cornucopia of cryptids.
It's true, though.
A lot of them, even.
Happens to Murgatroyd. Yeah, and that's true. I mean, 1 million acres, dude. That almost is that's mind-boggling. I mean, literally, my mind is in a bottle. Yeah, it's to even think about that much land.
But think about what we talk about with all the 88 billion acres. It's hard to wrap your mind around.
Not billion.
88 million. I'm sorry.
Like, that's a lot of land. Holy crap!
Well, 88 million. That's still a hard number to wrap your head around. We're struggling with 1.1 million. Well, that you got 87 more.
Yeah. That 88 million is just the parks. That's not wildlife management areas. That's not state parks. That's not public use areas. That is just national parks.
I mean, dude, the 1.1 million acres. Let's think about this for comparison, y'all. Rhode Island is 776,960 acres.
You can fit Rhode Island inside the Pine Barrens.
Correct.
That kind of does put in perspective. The entire state would fit in the Pine Barrens with room to spare.
Yeah, exactly. With an extra 300 and some odd thousand acres.
Right.
Crazy,
man. Crazy.
Roxanne Delgado says, Ryan, I'd read that there was no mother Leeds. It does make one wonder, could it be the devil himself? Or something similar, something along those lines. I mean, we could be talking about something that is purely spiritual, much like the Wendigo we talked about when we were doing the Wendigo show, how we think that the Wendigo is basically just an evil Manitou. It's a nature spirit of the spirit of greed and hunger. The Jersey Devil could be another one of those spirits, a nature spirit that just either hunts or protects the pine barrens.
I mean, I agree.
Until Pampanen says one man used to own all of the pine barrens. It was called Wharton Forest. Man, can you imagine owning 1.1 million acres? Good God.
That'd be so rad.
I'd build a house right smack in the middle of it.
Right in the middle. 100%. Might take me 2 hours to get to the mailbox, but you know.
Yep. Some people keep mentioning the Navajo. The Navajo are a Southwest tribe. There is no record of the Navajo ever being in the New Jersey area.
Yeah. Wanda says, y'all can start a compound.
Kay Bauer says, all right, Rhode Island, you're now a wildlife preserve. Gotta go. Let's just cordon off Colorado and call it a nature preserve.
Get some of the weirdos out of here. Wait, I didn't say that. I said that in my outside voice. Sorry.
Use your indoor voice, Doc.
My filter slipped.
Richie Evans says, question, how do we know that the Jersey Devil's not part of the Fae folk? We don't. That's another nature spirit, basically. They're Celtic lore, and it's very, very possible that Celtic lore explaining the Fae might be just their understanding of the same spirits that the Native Americans are describing in a different way.
Yeah.
Especially since when you look at the Appalachian Mountains, which run close to New Jersey, the Appalachian Mountains are part of the same mountain system that runs through Scotland and Ireland before the continental drift.
Well, that's, what there's one of our mountain ranges here that used to be connected to, what's the big mountain range in Europe? The
Alps.
Alps. Is that the Alps and the Rockies that used to be connected?
I don't know.
There's one of our big mountains.
I know the Smokies and the Smoky Mountain Range, the Appalachian Range is also part of the Caledonian Range in Scotland.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But there again, that would kind of, if you've got the same type of places, things.
Topography.
Yeah. What I was going to say, yeah, if you think about the old 1976 King Kong, he looked at the World Trade Center and it looked like that's where he's going to go because it was what was familiar to him. So if you've got these things, then that would explain why you get them in a lot of the same areas of one part of the world versus another part of the world.
Right.
Because it's
familiar.
Yeah, it's a commonality.
That's why a lot of the settlers that settled in the Appalachians said it felt like home. Ryan says, one interesting thing to note about the Barrens, the tribes called it the land of the dragons. There was another one up here. Let me scroll up just a hint. God dang it, my mouse isn't working. There we go. Kenji asked, do you think we could kill it? Well, I wouldn't want to try. If it was attacking me or my family, yes, I would do my level best to put one down. And allegedly, a farmer did put one down a number of years ago. So maybe they can be killed. Or it's entirely possible he killed something completely unrelated. But if it's physical and it eats, something can kill it. It's whether or not, we have the technology or the ability to do it is up to debate. But if it eats and has a physical form, it can die.
Yes, sir.
Ryan says some type of prehistoric creature. Maybe. It could be remnant population of some sort of megafauna. Antonio Vasquez, DA, did you ever watch this video, Dogman sighting in Fort Pierce, Florida? I did. That's an interesting video. But the thing is anymore, it is very difficult to trust video at face value. And I hate to be that cynical about it, but there's so much AI out there and so much hoaxing going on. Even if a video looks real, it still could just be an elaborate hoax. So without thoroughly analyzing the video by guys like Thinker Thunker or MK Davis, I really am skeptical to accept any video at face value. And even after they've said, yes, this is an authentic video, it doesn't mean that wasn't a dude in a suit. It just means that the video hasn't been tampered with. So because of all the hoaxing that's going on and what we refer to as bullshitography, where someone I could just take this background behind me, throw a couple red circles on it, put it on a couple of websites, and there's gonna be people swear up and down they see 25 Bigfoot hiding in one tree, and unfortunately that is horrible for the field. I don't know what to say other than that's just wishful thinking at best, and some people just can't accept that Paradolia is a thing. And I've seen so many red circle photos that were just that. If you take a picture of a bush and you zoom in on it enough, you're eventually going to find a pattern. And whether or not it's a Bigfoot or not is, completely up in the air, and it probably isn't. So.
I'm sorry, DA. I wasn't laughing at you. I just saw K Bowers be calling in a Jersey Devil with caw caw tookie tookie. What the evolution? Sorry,
that's funny.
But yeah, I mean the Paradolia thing. If you look hard enough and long enough at something, your mind and you're looking for it, what's your mind going to do? Gonna give it right to you.
Yep. That's why, and they'll tell you when we're out in the field, if you see something, you see a track, you don't come up, you don't call somebody over and say, "Hey, DA, look at this track."
What do you see?
Hey, look at this. What do you see?
Every time
when we were in Combs Ferry,
yeah,
when we got to that area where that mud was dried, I just stopped everybody and said, "Robbie, we got a trap track. Tell me what you see here."
Yep.
Because if somebody tells you, "Hey, do you see that?" and what says what that is,
exactly.
Eventually you're going to see that, even if that is not there.
The power of suggestion is huge. Just like when DA went up to Gatlinburg and they were staying in that cabin, he showed us those pictures. First thing he said, "What do you boys see?"
Mm-hmm. Yep. The first thing I did was text them the pictures, like, "Tell me what you see in this photo." That's the same thing I did with Annette when I found the track. I moved that branch out of the way, and I'm like, "Honey, tell me what you see down there." Yeah. She goes, "That's a footprint." I'm like, "Yeah, it's a big damn footprint."
Yeah. What do you mean that track? Yeah, I see that.
Oh yeah, that track with the indentation of each individual toe in it.
Haliwa Wolf says, "As a Native American, it tickles me pink that y'all hold stock in the Native stories and legends. Sincerely, thank y'all." Dude, there is so much knowledge that we can gain by listening to a lot of the Native American stories. Even if it's just a cautionary tale, but so many of the medicinal plants that we use today have come from Native American lore. What's the one? Foxglove. They used to prescribe foxglove tea for people with a bad heart. Well, It turns out it does have a chemical in it that's good for heart. That's what they make the drug digitalis out of. So many of these Native American remedies truly are medicinal, like spruce bark. There's a number of things you can do with the bark of a spruce tree. You can chew it, and you'll get a medicinal property from it. You can steep it in a tea. You can even, if you're really hungry, you can just chew on it and get nutritional value from it as well. But there are so many of these Native American remedies and folklore that we've ignored at our peril.
Like pine needle tea will take a fever down.
Mm-hmm. So there's tons of Native American remedies that are not only beneficial. I mean, with modern medicine in the Western world, it's not about curing you. It's about treating your symptoms, because there's no cash in a cure. Native American lore was about treating you and making you better. That's why so many people are starting to turn to more homeopathic, more Native American remedies, because it actually cures the disease, not just treats the symptoms to keep you coming back for more.
No, I mean, when you were researching your first Dark Frontiers book, DA, you and I talked a lot about the natural remedies and where did most of that come from?
A lot of Native American lore.
Absolutely.
Well, like when you and I had the conversation about battlefield medicine during the Civil War, I'm like, what did they use to keep sutures from getting infected? Because they didn't have modern antibiotics, and things like morphine were very short supply, especially on the southern end. What did they use? And that's when we discovered that they would use pine pitch and honey, mix it together and cover the wound. It was naturally antiseptic, and the wounds healed much faster. We also discovered that they would boil horsehair to use as sutures, because silk was so rare. But I tell you, I learned a hell of a lot just writing that book.
Yeah,
and I can't tell you the number of times I called Doc. I'm like, "Do you believe this shit?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." The Natchez medicine man in him came out, and we talked about a lot of really interesting stuff that's eventually going to come in other books, but. Yeah, there's so many Native American remedies that we owe gratitude for things we do even today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just like, and then my buddy just texted me saying, me and you had talked about this too. Salt, salt. I mean, Napoleon. I mean, hell, they used like not only honey but like sugar for wound treatment because it's bacteriostatic. So,
Halima Wolf says elderberry is a common one still in use.
Yep.
Thanks to Misty, I still have some elderberry.
Yep.
I've been using after I got the adhesive off. Well, here I'll show you. After the adhesive came off of that, I started using some of the wound cream, and I think that's going to heal with very little scar. And that was a big, deep incision.
Yep. Y'all pardon me, I'll be right back.
Art 12796 says, I do find it very interesting that we have all these plants and things that we can use found on the earth. Native American lore used to teach, and it still does among the tribes. It said that the Great Spirit put a plant on the earth to cure every ailment. And like I said, modern medicine is only about treating the symptoms and keeping you coming back, because a cure is a customer lost as far as they're concerned. Sorry. Just seeing if I missed up anything. Greg says, Misty, you saving the seeds for Spencer. That's funny.
Here, Spencer, chew on these.
Oh, that's funny. Northwoods, that's a great Monty Python reference. I think my ex's father must have once smelled of elderberries. Your mother was a hamster and your father smelled of elderberries. Now go away before I taunt you a second time.
I bite my thumb at you.
Ryan says, if you want to read a truly amazing Indigenous story, read the 7 Grandfather Teachings from the Turtle Island Iroquois. It talks about Kitchesabe Bigfoot. Hey, Ryan, text me that, because I will forget it long before we get off the show. I'll see if I can find a copy of that book. That'd be a good one to add to my library. We'll shy away from the Python quotes. Because me and Robbie start quoting movies and then we'll train wreck the whole show.
Yep.
It's happened before.
Many, many, many times.
But back to the Jersey Devil. This could be another case of something that the natives in the area had talked about for generations prior to it being called the Leeds Devil. That's something I'm gonna dig into, because it's I'm telling you, before a few minutes ago, I'd never even thought of that.
Well, but that's kind of the point of what we do and why we do it is, and I've lost count of how many times you say it. Nobody is an expert. Just because we start a show saying, "Hey, this is what we believe," that doesn't mean by the end of the show we might not have a different look at it, or a different take on it, or a whole completely different.
Well, I can tell you from the time I started doing this show till up until now, my views on things have evolved as we've learned new things. I mean, hell, it was on this show we got to talking about the tongue pop thing, and
Yeah.
we
I remember that.
I've really progressed in my what I believe is understanding of these things by sharing ideas with y'all, and input we get from other researchers, input we get from you guys. And Tony says you're going to interview Martin Groves. I'm going to see about what I can do. I don't think Martin does too many interviews these days because of his health, but we'll look into it. Halila Wolf, no, I have not got my new P.O. box yet. I'm probably going to try to get that this week. It's still screwed up with the U.S. Postal Service, so I'm going to get one at the UPS store. So I should have that this week. Ryan says there's a prehistoric animal known as the Canaris. Makes you wonder if this dinosaur was the reason the Barrens were called the Land of Dragons. Well, if you look back, and we all know that dinosaur, the term dinosaur, which means terrible lizard, wasn't coined until the mid 1800s. Yet the term dragon exists in every culture, including numerous listings in the Bible.
Over 100 times it's used in the Bible.
It is.
Greg, my wife, tells me the exact same thing. She tells me all the time I'm a fountain of useless information.
Doc tells me that every now and then too.
Right. But could you imagine all three of us doing a game of trivia?
My wife hates playing trivia with me. She will not let me play. Well, if we play Trivial Pursuit, I have to read the cards because
we just need to find a place where they're playing Trivial Pursuit where the grand prize is $1 million and we're set.
Billy Mitchum says, reading Dark Frontiers Cry of the Wendigo for the second time. I love the story. Thank you. Really glad you like it. Thank you much. Ryan P says, what do y'all think of the theories that the Jersey Devil and the Mothman are one entity? That is a great question. It was actually one I was kind of leading to. I was gonna dangle the carrot and the stick on these two. I was gonna give Doc the carrot and beat Robbie with the stick. What do you guys think about anyway? What do you guys think of that? About the possibility that Mothman and the Jersey Devil might be the same thing.
I mean, with the similarities of the claw hands and the wings. I mean, because we've heard last week's show we talked about the difference in the wings descriptors and things like that. That would be, to me, that could be the only similarities. I mean, there have been reports of people seeing the Jersey Devil with red eyes. Mm-hmm. And the story that my buddy had, he didn't say anything about the eyes being red or anything like that. But I was wondering about that when I read that. I don't know.
Me personally, I don't think they're the same thing.
I don't either.
I can see where you could think that. I could see how the correlation could be made between the two, because when you look at how the crow flies, the Pine Barrens of Jersey and the hills of West Virginia ain't that far apart.
No.
A few hundred miles? And for something that flies, that ain't that far.
Right.
So I could completely see how somebody would make the correlation that the two could possibly be the same thing. I just personally feel from the physical descriptions that they're not.
I mean, there are some similarities in there, but physical characteristics, that's about it. A couple of physical characteristics.
That from your friend's description, this thing was definitely a carnivore and was eating a deer. There's never been any sightings reports of the Mothman eating something like a deer, as far as I know. None of them I've read anyway.
But to me the main difference is when you hear all the descriptions of the Mothman, they're all pretty consistent across the board. Minor differences here and there. Jersey Devil's all over the place with the descriptions. So to me, that just says they're two different things right off the bat, because across the board they're pretty much the same, pretty standard, pretty. Some people don't say anything about the red eyes. Some people do say the red eyes, but always a dark figure, always got wings. You know, I think they're two separate things.
Yeah,
Reliable says, Doc, maybe the one your buddy saw was just blind. Doc, what do you got to say about that?
I mean, if it's a physical being, yeah. If it's a physical being.
I personally don't think it was so much blind as probably more ungainly on the ground.
Yeah.
Well,
I would bet they were able to get into the trees and start running, and it couldn't get a clear line of sight to hit them. And when they reached the road, it was close enough to civilization that it didn't want to pursue. So at some point, it probably gave up, but I think it probably doesn't move well on the ground. And if it's attacking people like it attacked that deer, and then it's probably hitting them from above like a raptor.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And it probably didn't have any desire to pursue any further because it had already eaten.
Michelle Richards says, is the Jersey Devil a harbinger of doom? Any stories? I've never heard of any stories of the Jersey Devil sightings that precluded a big disaster. So if both the Mothman and the Jersey Devil are nature spirits, I think they're very different nature spirits. Greg House says we need a predator drone. Yeah, I'd like to have the budget for a predator drone.
For real.
Little Patty says Jersey Devil, a juvenile Mothman.
I don't think so.
I
just think they're two different things.
But this is just our opinion. I mean, we could be totally wrong. There's no experts on this. That's a great theory. Me personally, I don't feel like they're the same creature. Ryan P says the Hindenburg crash was precluded by sightings. Sightings of what? Because I don't remember reading about anything about any kind of weird sightings prior to the Hindenburg disaster.
Not either.
Yeah, that's the first I've heard of it. And yeah, the Hindenburg landing wasn't in the Pine Barrens. That's a good thought, little Patty. I mean, it could be. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah,
from my personal feeling, I don't think they're the same creature, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't think it is like, and it may be a small consignment, but I think most people that describe the Mothman, it's really consistent across the board of how they describe it, and you get so many. I think, and Sonia, I think, hit the nail on the head. I think if this thing is some type of spirit or entity or whatever you want to say, I think it appears to people as what it wants to, or what, like we've talked about before, what scares them. I mean, some people got a pretty messed up mind. We know that from the fields we've been in. So some of these messed up creatures are maybe what's in their twisted minds. I mean, who knows?
Yeah. And, it has been said that demonic entities will appear in the form of something that'll scare the crap out of you. Maybe they're, fixating on something. And
I mean, you think about it. If you're going into the Jersey Pine Barrens, chances are you've heard of the Jersey Devil. So if you're going into this place and there really is something in there that's what it's doing, and you're, like you said, you're fixating on something like that, and you've got all these descriptions running through your head, maybe that's why this thing appears so goofy looking sometimes, for lack of a better term, because people are hearing, they've got all the horse head, bat wings, and all. Maybe that's why it looks like that sometimes.
Yep, absolutely.
Mike Prine says Mothman, alien insectoid being. Maybe. Again, we just don't have enough information. And Robbie and Doc will tell you, if you have a critical incident where something bad happened, 5 eyewitnesses are going to give you 5 different stories.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you can only trust physical descriptions from an eyewitness to a certain point, because what Robbie was talking about it before. When you have that adrenaline dump, and when you're coming down off of that, man, what's that called again, Robbie?
PNS backlash,
PNS
parasympathetic
backlash.
nervous system.
Yeah, that PNS backlash can, yeah, it can really mess people up.
Yeah,
I know that was the night I almost shot a guy. Came at me with a knife, and for like 45 minutes after the incident, once he was down and in cuffs, for like 45 minutes, my hands shook, and I couldn't stop them. I mean, they were just shaking like a leaf.
Yeah, when you go into that fight or flight, when you go into that fight or flight syndrome, and your body starts producing all that adrenaline, and then like you said, you're out of that situation. Your body has to do something with it, and when it dumps it and gets rid of it, that's called a PNS backlash. And that's why I've theorized, and there again, this is my own personal thing. I'm not saying that Bigfoot and Dogman can't use infrasound, because I know there is such a thing as infrasound. But I think a lot of these things that people call infrasound and Doc and I talked about it, if you think about all these symptoms that people talk about when they've said they've experienced infrasound, really is a lot of the same things that you would experience coming off of PNS backlash. And if you were somebody who went in the woods and had no clue or didn't believe that these things existed, you walk around the corner of a trail and you see a 12-foot hairy humanoid thing standing there looking at you, 9 times out of 10, I would just about bet you're going to go into a fight or flight syndrome, and your body is going to dump an enormous amount of adrenaline into your system.
Hey boys, I need to step away from the computer for a couple minutes. I will be right back.
So in that situation, you get your body puts you in that. Eventually, your body's going to have to get rid of that adrenaline. There again, like we're the evidence guys, Doc. We're the guys who start with what we know, and going through my defensive tactics instructor class and listening to all the stuff and knowing all the stuff that I know from this, and knowing all the stuff you know from the medical field, it just makes sense, or a lot more sense to me, that people in this situation where they think that their life's in danger from one of these creatures, they're experiencing a PNS backlash instead of an infrasound attack. That's just my opinion.
It could be the after effects of the adrenaline dump. I mean, absolutely. Because, like you said, I mean that kind of encounter, just like my buddy wrote, when they saw it, what did they start doing? They started beating feet, dude. It was time to GTFO, and so, because I remember like on my first parachute jump, after the adrenaline wore off, I didn't have an infrasound type situation. I just started getting all pukey. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, and that's a symptom of it. And I think Ryan's right.
Also, I'll say this too: whenever you have a body alarm response like that, the fight or flight, called the body alarm response, your liver stores glycogen. Well, when this chemical cocktail happens, it freaking presses out it mobilizes that glycogen for and turns it into glucose for instant energy, for fuel. And when you get that spike, what happens then? You crash. And when you get that sugar crash, if anybody's ever had low blood sugar or got hypoglycemic, it could definitely make you feel nauseated and out of sorts, for sure.
And you get tunnel vision. You lose the fine motor skills. You lose the ability to do that. If you really start looking at all these people that have had these things like that, it matches up. And I think Ryan's kind of funny with what he said. I don't know if you saw it, Doc. He said if we ran into the Jersey Devil, we'd just start throwing movie quotes at him. Well, you got to interrupt the OODA loop somehow.
Quack bang out.
Mm-hmm.
or frag out.
Yeah, either way. Frag out will interrupt the OODA loop pretty good.
Greg House says, when I thought that booger was going to kill me, the one pissed about the motorcycle, when it was over, I got sick and puked.
That happens.
That, I mean, we've had people on the show, DA, that have told. Well, I'm pretty sure, and you probably gonna know who I'm talking about specifically when I say this. I was hit with infrasound. We were out there, and all of a sudden, I just got sick. And you asked the question. You said, "Was it while they were still out there?" No, it was about a minute or two after they got out of our sight. I'm sitting at, like I said, point A to point Z, but all points in between.
Right.
Why?
Eliminate the possible before you can, validate the impossible.
So I'm sitting there listening to the story. And like I said, I'm not saying that it's not. I'm just saying this is me. This is my brain, my analytical brain, going through the training that I've been through as a defensive tactics instructor, knowing this and knowing what happens and seeing it from not just from a cryptid side, but seeing it from people who have been in these situations, where it was a shootout or a bad wreck or whatever. Yeah. And Greg said that's what it's called. It's an adrenaline dump.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in a shootout. You're not that gives you the same results as what these infrasound things are. There again, you can't jump from point A to point Z without hitting all the points in the middle.
Right.
Sonia Morgan pointed out we missed the top of the hour. Robbie, you want to tell us about 30 to 40 seconds worth of Scallywag Tactical?
Scallywag Tactical. Go see them. Use code DA Roberts 10 at checkout. Greatest blades in the world. Cut you 3 ways, long, deep, and continuous. Make sure you got your Dark Angel medical kit with you when you play with them. That's all I got to say about that.
That was quick and painless.
Yep. Well, since I went so far over last time, I know I went kind of under this time, but that should even out.
Yeah, we went for like 15 minutes last time.
It wasn't 15 minutes.
It was quite a while.
Oh, hey, so
I got distracted because I kept waiting for Doc to come back, and we just kept talking, and I just kept bringing up knives. I'm sorry, I get distracted.
So my buddy sent me a couple of things. He said there was documented sightings of the Jersey Devil in Philadelphia and Lock Haven, Pennsylvania in 1909. I put the links into the co-host chat on Facebook for y'all to check out.
I just see them.
Okay. Pretty interesting.
I don't have Facebook up right at the moment. I'll
check them out
here in a moment.
So, I mean, I think your buddy probably would agree with that he was definitely in that fight or flight syndrome when he had this.
Oh, absolutely. And he just said, not going to be able to serve you a primary document at this moment, but all of us locals know that there have been sightings beyond just the Pine Barrens.
Right. Yeah, there have been sightings in southern Pennsylvania quite a few times. K Bowers 8111 says, y'all missed it, Robbie, DA Robbie and Doc. I have an awful time trying to recount to police what happened after an incident at the hospital. I guess it's the backlash thing. Yeah, that PNS backlash will mess you up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're going to recount anything that happens after any kind of body alarm response, you got to give your body at least 3 to 4 sleep cycles for everything to get kind of reorganized inside the brain.
They say at least 48 hours before you give a statement.
Yeah,
at
least.
More if you can, but
at
least 48.
For critical incidents when I was with Greene County, that if you discharge your weapon, you get sent home, and they don't even talk to you for at least a day.
As it should be.
So
give
I just like process. I look for the things. Look for what you know. It's like we talk about. Look in nature what we already know in nature to answer these questions about camouflage and things like that, and backtracking and all. It's the same way. Look at nature. Look at what we know. Look at what we know of our own bodies when we're in situations like that. And I know not everybody's been in critical shooting incident or critical incident like that, but everybody may have been in a close call where you almost wrecked your car, and that'll put you in the same situation. If
or combat veterans.
Yeah. So I mean, everybody walking the planet has the potential to be in a situation like that when you're going to be in a fight or flight and you're going to get a body alarm response like Doc was talking, and you get that adrenaline dump, then you're going to have a PNS backlash. I don't care who you are. If you go through an adrenaline, some may be a lot worse than others, but you're going to experience some type of PNS backlash. I'm the type it doesn't really affect me quite as bad as it does some other people, but that doesn't, it can still, depending on the situation, affect me on different levels or different degrees. So you're going to experience that, and I think that's what is going on in a lot of these situations.
Yeah, and I would agree. And the thing is it's nothing against people that don't have this type of training. It's if you don't know what this is, you're going to look for an explanation. And I'm not saying this is the be all end all. Every case is PNS backlash, but once you know what that is and can identify it, it explains a lot of what people refer to as symptoms of being zapped or ultrasound, infrasound.
But there again, like we said, this is just strictly our opinion, what we think, based on the training and in law enforcement, the medical field, things like that we have. But that's how we approach the entire field that this is because of the training that we've had. That's just how we view it. We're evidence based. We've said that. I've lost count how many times we say that, but that's just
Yeah, and that's like Robbie was saying. That's part of how we approach. We try to approach from our own experience, and
Yes.
sometimes we can give a logical explanation. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes there just is no logical explanation with the knowledge we have now. That doesn't mean there won't be 10 years down the road when our knowledge has increased. But when it comes to right in the now, some things just can't be explained. Um, but again, we only have to look at history to see some of that. I mean, the ancient Vikings used to think that the aurora borealis was the light of the Bifrost reflecting off the armor of the Valkyries when they came to choose the dead. We know that's not the case now, but they had no other way to explain it. And if I lived 200, 300, 400,000 years ago, and had no scientific basis to explain anything, and was trying to figure out all these colored lights in the night sky, God knows what kind of explanation I would have come up with.
Right.
Yeah. And we've said it before. If we went back to the time of when DA wrote the Dark Frontiers books and took this, if it would work, you'd probably get hung or burned as a witch.
Mm-hmm.
You certainly get some very, very concerned looks from folks who wanted to get away from you. But any technology sufficiently advanced appears as magic to those who don't understand it. And some of these things that we're documenting from both cryptids and possibly supernatural creatures could just be a level of physics we don't understand yet. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm not saying that is even applies 100% of the time, but there is definitely incidents where furthering our knowledge of science has explained things that we thought were magic or supernatural, and really kind of opened our eyes to some things. Like Foxfire. What are they? The Foxfire light. Doc, the angel glow, the angel light on battlefields.
Yeah, the angel they called it the angel.
They thought it was literally an angel.
Yep, absolutely.
But what was it?
It's a bacteria that lives in the soil in that certain area, and if the soldiers were out there for several days at a time, then their wounds would. Obviously their wounds were dirty, so they would get exposed to that bacteria in that soil, and they would see it glowing. It had a bioluminescence, kind of like algae, and they would see it glowing in the low light at nighttime. And ironically enough, the soldiers who had that particular bacteria glowing in their wounds had a higher survival rate than those that did not. So hence the name, the angel's glow.
And like I said, when it was first documented, when it was first seen, they assumed it was something supernatural. It was something paranormal. And there turns out there is a logical explanation for it. Just because we can't logically explain it at the time doesn't mean that one day there won't be a logical explanation for
Right.
it.
Hey, DA, how close is your boom mic to your mouth?
About 1.5 feet.
Okay, yeah, because my brother Keith just texted me. He said, I can't hardly hear DA. He said, I can hear you and Robbie.
There, I moved it a bit closer. How's that? Although you can see it green screening out part of my hat. How's that? Is that any better?
Keith, is that any better? You're watching the show.
Yeah, because we've had this happen. DA sounds fine to me. Does he sound fine to you, Doc?
He was a little bit quiet, but like Keith said, I can hear you and Robbie like really well, but I can't hear Keith. Keith said, yes, that's great. So he did it just for you, Keithy.
Hopefully that's somewhat better.
That actually is much better. That actually is.
I've got to get a new boom arm for my mic. I really do. Noah's got a really nice one. I'm thinking about trying to get one like his because this one is just a really crappy boom arm. And I need to find a better position for it because where I had it before was hooked up down here at desk level and it got in the way of everything. So I moved it up and attached it to a shelf. And I think I just need to reposition it so I can get it like right here next to my head without, being obstructing the view, so to speak.
Put it next to your huge gargantuan and cranium.
That's right. Put it inside my hat or something.
Well, he moved it when I came down this last time because there was no way they would have heard. He had to move it so it could be in the middle of both of us. So, because we was very cramped in that room.
We're a little bit. I'm going to try something real quick. You might see the boom arm come into the frame, but I'm going to try to bring it. I'll try to minimize that boom arm, but. How's that? That any better?
That actually sounds really good.
Losing part of the hat. I'm going to shift the angle of the camera just a hair. So I can sit here and be over to the side without being over to the side of the thing. Let me see if this helps. Nope, going the wrong direction now. Now I'm starting to miss part of the green screen. Oh, well, that's good enough.
Technology's awesome.
Don't you love that?
Art wants you to try an AI version of Doc's voice. We got the real thing right here. I don't know. We need an AI version of it.
Who said what?
Art said, DA, can you try an AI version of Doc's voice? I didn't understand unless I've just missed the mark. Trying to roll back and see where it went.
Then it wouldn't sound like me at all, which might be a good thing.
DA, could you try AI version of Doc's voice? LOL.
I'm not sure how to do that.
Why would y'all want to AI my voice anyway? That's a little bit creepy.
We got the real thing right there. We don't need the AI version. It's the real Doc right there. See? There he is, right yonder.
Yeah, Art said my voice gets out there. Yeah, man, I got it. I got my mic. My mic's not even turned all the way up.
Steve Stepanek says, "Is there a machine that detects chipped animals?" Yeah, there's a chip reader that all vets use to check and see if dogs have chips. Also, horse breeders have one that scans the horse for chips because all thoroughbreds are chipped.
Yeah, all the animal control guys at the sheriff's office here have those scanners in their truck. The chip scanners will tell all the information about. Obviously they have to be chipped for it to work, but if they are, then
Yeah, and what range do you have to be to read those? Those are just RFID chips. So.
Yeah, they
gotta be
usually
pretty
they
close.
like right on top of they'll
Yeah.
hold a
Yeah.
dog's head in their hand. They'll run it across their ears because that's
Yeah, 'cause
usually
those things put off a very minimal signal.
yeah.
Pine knot yoders. That's a green screen? I always thought I was camping. No, that's actually just a green screen behind me. I don't know if I touch it, it'll move. You can't see it moving, but yeah, you touch it, it moves. And that little gap over here on this side, right in here, it's actually where the green screen ain't over far enough for the way as far as I've got the camera tilted. Kay Bauer says, could you imagine having one of those scanners out in the woods with no pets and getting a ping? Like, what the hell am I getting a ping from?
Well, I would say that that's probably a distinct possibility.
Especially if some stories we've heard are true about the government using them.
Well,
somebody's got a way to digitally track them.
We talked about it. Some people that disappear, they search for them for weeks and months, and some people they search for them for a day, and they're like, they're gone.
Yep. Makes you wonder, because I know those search and rescue guys, those guys don't give up until they're told to.
Yeah, like I said, the stranger things may seem, it seems like the more actual or factual rather it is when it comes to stuff like that.
One of the things I always find the most telling, and people who haven't worked around working dogs don't really get this, just how important this little bit is when a tracking dog will not track. Those dogs live for that track. They cannot wait to get off leash and start a track.
Yep.
And that is their whole life. They love that stuff. And for them to just go, nope, I'm out, getting back in the truck.
Deuces.
They're smelling something that they don't want no part of.
You better listen to your dog and get further from that place real fast.
I use that as a great example in Lakeview, man. When Rocco was like, nope, not doing it.
Nope.
Antonio Vasquez, DA, have you heard about you get so scared your hair turns white? I've heard that story. I've heard about that. My mother used to talk about people being so frightened that their hair turned white. I've never personally seen it, but I've heard that you can be frightened enough that literally turns your hair white. And I've also heard stories of people being frightened to death.
Yep. Medically speaking, Doc, how could something like that occur?
Man, I don't know. I mean,
scared to death.
No. The hair color
beats the shit out of me.
I can pretty much guess how getting scared to death. Getting
scared to death.
That's like, scared. It just causes your heart to.
Yeah, you go into cardiac arrest. Yeah. So I mean, that can happen. I mean, how many of y'all have ever had a body alarm response? A little adrenaline dump, and it feels like your freaking heart's hammering out of your chest. You know what I mean? Yeah, and I mean, and if you don't have a good cardiovascular status, then that could throw you into a fatal arrhythmia, or even cause your heart to get overloaded with too much myocardial demand. But as far as the hair turning color, I don't know what would cause the melanin to escape from your hair shafts and make them all turn gray simultaneously.
Is it plausible though?
I don't know. I've never seen it. I've never seen it happen, and I don't know that it could because I mean everything I've seen, it was like instantaneous. And as we all know, it could happen probably, I would say maybe over time, but definitely not like right then, where somebody just gets scared gray. So,
well, and if you think about it, that this is a pop culture thing too. Think about the first Nightmare on Elm Street. That's what happened to Nancy. She got scared so bad in her dream with Freddy that she got that white streak in her hair. So that's a popular myth. If it is a myth, that's a popular thing that a lot of people it kind of perpetuated. So
Yeah, I mean, like my buddy just said, it's a cortisol reaction and generally gradual because, yeah, it said more of a chronic stress response because if you notice when people go under a great deal of stress, they tend to turn gray a lot faster. But yeah, it's not like somebody stayed in a haunted house and the next morning their hair was white, type of thing.
Mary Cole said, "Is Rocco a real dog?" I've worked with a number of dogs over the years, so Rocco's behavior is based on real observations. But no, I'm sure there's a police dog somewhere named Rocco, but he was just a construct for the story. And Roxanne Delgado said, "Da, when I had a bad tragedy in my life, my hair went from red to white gray almost overnight."
Again, I've never seen it happen. I've heard anecdotal stories of it, but I mean, stress response. I don't know.
well, I mean, and a stress response is going to affect everybody different, though, right, Doc? Because of body chemistry and things like that. So it could happen over instantaneously or overnight to some people, but some.
Yeah, the strain was more than he could bear. So,
my poor soul, he was just too high strung.
Yeah.
Mike Prine says serious injury will turn your hair gray. I don't doubt it. I have not experienced it, but I don't doubt it. I haven't experienced zero G either, but I believe it exists.
Yeah. And like I said, everybody's different. Everybody's that's just like drinking alcohol or eating different foods. Everything affects every single person different. You can't base what happens to one person and say that's 100% how it's going to affect everybody, because everybody is different. Everybody's body processes things different. That's why it's so when medicine is dispensed, right, Doc, that you have to really get into what people are taking or what they haven't taken, or allergies and things like that, because you can't say, okay, this is going to affect every single person on the face of the planet the exact same way, because it's just not going to happen.
Exactly. What does that sound?
Northwood says, my ex reminds me that stress is when the mind overrides the body's desire to beat the crap out of somebody who desperately needs it. I've made a similar statement to that more than once.
You must know some of the same people I know.
Yep. About time for the third affiliate, DA.
All right. Let me throw the link up real quick. There we go. Our other affiliate is Ken Brock from Brock Blades. Ken's a career cop, great guy, the tactical midget himself, who now makes custom blades in the shop behind his house. And they are custom made to order, or you can order some of the ones that are already custom made that are on his website, brockblades.com. They're great blades. They're beautiful. Each one's a work of art in and of itself. And each one is unique because no two are just alike. If you know anybody that enjoys a good blade, custom blade is a gift that's going to be treasured. And these aren't meant to be set on a shelf and just looked at. These are functional, very sharp, very high quality blades. So check out brockblades.com. Tell them we sent you, and don't forget to use discount code Cryptid10 for 10% off your order. And that's all I got to say about that.
Mercy.
Quote,
Okay.
Robbie.
All right, then. We've covered a lot of material tonight.
Yeah, we have.
Yes, we have.
This almost, dang, man. Hour and 40 minutes has gone by like that.
And we relatively stayed on topic, too.
For the most part, yes.
We didn't meander a touch, but we've stayed pretty well focused.
That's why I said relatively.
Relatively.
Kay Bauer says Doc's new knife name, the Wendigo Whittler.
This here is the street weasel. I just like saying it. Great little blade.
Discreet weasel.
Yep. Great little blade. Oh, man.
Lori Barnes has been a great show. We didn't lose Robbie yet either, did we?
Hey.
No, we haven't lost him yet.
We're going to now.
Yeah, I know.
Somebody brought it up.
I got kicked for some reason. I don't know. I was talking and all of a sudden I wasn't. So.
Yeah, we just saw you disappear. I'm like, what the hell's happened?
Yeah, I don't know. I was just sitting there and all of a sudden it goes, I'm like, well,
you've got a paper down.
Yeah, it was my satellite. I don't know. My Starlink's getting really good speed right now.
Antonio Vasquez says, I'm ready for 3 hours, guys. Well, we've done it before.
Yeah.
We've done it before, but not tonight.
Uh-oh. Northwood said his ex lives in my neighborhood now. Don't tell me that, Northwoods. I've heard all these comparisons and stories. You know, that's scary.
So what you looking for is somebody that's like Aunt Bunny running around going goony goo goo or something?
Your wife's a Bigfoot, Gus.
Goony goo goo.
Put your ass in the goony goo goo mobile and go home.
I cracked myself up.
Oh, sorry, folks. That's a little Eddie Murphy from Eddie Murphy Raw back in the late 80s.
Boopity, 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 boopity. My shoe. Boopity, boopity, boopity. Oh, man.
I love the story.
I hadn't thought about that in a long time.
I hadn't either, dude.
Well, think about we talked about that when I was down there. We talked about the story that Bill Cosby or when Bill Cosby called Eddie Murphy after Raw and said, "Oh, you need to clean it up or whatever." And then he called Richard Pryor, and Richard Pryor said, "Are people coming to your show? Yeah. Are people laughing? Yeah. Then F what Bill Cosby said. You need to keep doing what you're doing."
Tell Bill Cosby I said have a Coke and a smile and shut up.
Oh, mercy day.
Don Donaldson says, Robbie, aren't there some cryptid sightings in your area lately?
Yeah, is he talking about Northwood's ex or is he talking about for real?
Yeah.
Speaking of cryptids in your area, have you ever had a chance to go by that restaurant?
Yeah, like I said, every time I went by there, and I went by there 3 separate times, they've been closed. So I don't know if it's just they're closing at the time that I'm able to get by there. I'm gonna try to go by there this weekend and see if I can.
Northwood says, Robbie, if you pull over a woman who reminds you of Roz from the movie Monsters, Inc., it's probably my ex. Wazowski.
I see you there, Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski.
That's scary.
Oh, so that's Puce.
Thankfully, I ain't pulling nobody over because I'm at the school.
Steve's got a question for you. Has anyone seen a Wendigo? I have not, but I know they hate snowmobiles.
Yeah, that's a fact.
No, they hate your snowmobiles.
Correct.
Yeah. Not far north from where Doc lives right now is a Girl Scout camp that was closed down due to Wendigo sightings.
And there was a sighting out here on Pikes Peak, right here in El Paso County. This guy had been staying up on the mountain doing some extreme camping, and his buddy went up there to get him and give him a ride back. And they were coming down a trail off of the peak at nighttime, and felt something pacing them. So, and my son's been recently doing the Manitou incline down at Manitou Springs, going at nighttime, and I was like, bro, I'm just letting you know there's been sightings of stuff up there, so
things you don't want to bump into in the dark.
Right, exactly.
Now, that Girl Scout camp, that was a pretty popular camp. They just shut that thing down.
Yeah, because they used to have like a church camp and everything there was where what I knew it as. And then, but yeah, they would tell the girls, hey, do not go outside the perimeter of the cabins at nighttime. Carry flashlights. Go with a person if you got to go the bathrooms. Yeah. So scary stuff, man.
Steve Stepanek says, "What kills me a Wendigo? The lore is very, all over the place about what actually kills one. Most
need
of
a
it
young
involves
priest.
fire. Some of it involves cutting the heart out with a silver blade. My best advice about a Wendigo is if there's one in the area, I would unask that AO in a hell of a hurry, because trying to kill one may not be in your best interest.
Yeah. You need one whole chicken, a jar of peach preserves, a weed eater, and a beer trimmer.
And a young priest and an old priest. For real.
Kay Bowers says, DA, I tried looking up the story, but only get a story of some dude killing a Girl Scout. Let's see if we can chase down the information on that Girl Scout camp, Doc.
Okay.
Maybe we'll do a show just about the Wendigo in that camp.
Well, and also, they said it was like what Bauer said about the dude killing the Girl Scout. Was it? Was it really?
Yeah, was it actually a person?
Yeah. So.
Well, how often have things been attributed to bear attacks?
Quite frequently.
Or mountain lion attacks.
Yes.
And I'm not saying bears and mountain lions don't attack people, but sometimes it gets attributed to a bear or mountain lion and makes zero sense.
Or an unknown canine species.
Yeah, like the Meeker Colorado mutilations.
And there is no such thing as an unknown canine species,
right,
in today's day. Well, it probably is.
Well, but how could they unless they can levitate over a 8-foot game fence and leave no tracks anywhere else except around the dead cattle. That's kind of odd, ain't it?
Yeah. And we're finding that the more we dig, the more we're finding campgrounds that have been shut down, and not just in Missouri. Campgrounds that have been shut down without explanation, and in many cases they've been shut down to the point where you can't even get into them. So that was what happens with Combs Ferry. They probably shut that thing down 35 years ago. I can't find when exactly they shut it down. When we were in there, it looked like a post-apocalyptic wasteland. I mean, it was destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to know what the name of Zeus's butthole where those canids went. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're probably still in the area.
So they hadn't had any more mutilations since then, but I'm just wondering, they're to not leave any more tracks. That's just odd. So who knows? I don't want to go to Meeker's. All I know, not by myself,
and not unarmed.
Faux shizzle.
Steve Stepanek says, my brother saw a dog man in Kansas. He was going 50 miles per hour and the dog man was keeping up with him. I've heard stories of them keeping up with vehicles until they hit highway speed.
Nope.
What time is it, Doc?
Time to GTFO, baby.
Yeah, put the hammer down.
Half past.
Dave Bauer says, ride a snowmobile by where that camp is. You'll find your Wendigo.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't have a fast car anymore, so I don't know if I could outrun it.
Don Donaldson says, Ragnarok Rising Saga DA, I started this book 6 for the 5th time today. I'm really glad you enjoyed the series enough you've read it that many times. That is awesome. Thank you.
Man.
Well, we are coming up on the top of the hour. I don't know how if we want to jump off down another rabbit hole, but I think, Doc, you all right? You hearing something?
Yeah.
I hope he's hearing something. If he's not, there's something wrong.
Yeah. I heard something. I don't know what it was, but
You're there by yourself, ain't you?
yeah. Me and Mr. Colt might have to go investigate. Colonel Colt and myself. Weird. I don't know.
Weird.
I don't know, man. That door to my cave here is locked. So.
Steve Pigden says, DA, I wonder if up there in Lexington they found tracks and that's why they're covering it up. You know, that wouldn't surprise me at all. That's where that Amazon driver was killed, and they tried to blame it on the dogs, but they've never released a necropsy on the dogs, and the case is still open. If it was the dogs, they'd close the case, and you'd be able to get a copy of the reports with the Freedom of Information Act. But the local sheriff and the county coroner both said they had never in their careers seen a body torn up that bad. And one of the dogs was a Mastiff. Now, I'm not saying Mastiffs can't get mean, but I've owned several Mastiffs, and those are generally pretty gentle dogs. Doc, you need to go check on that. We can wait on you.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine, brother. Me and Colonel Colt are just hanging out.
Well, I don't blame you. So, if a Wendigo is a nature spirit and Mothman is another type of nature spirit, and the Jersey Devil is possibly some sort of nature spirit, are we looking at a resurgence of Native American energy?
Well, didn't there was in Yellowstone there was just a white buffalo calf that was spotted.
Yeah, Robbie. No, what's his radio check? Oh, we can't hear Robbie. We lost him. Somebody jinxed it. We lost Robbie.
Yeah, but they did. They recently sighted a white buffalo calf in Yellowstone, and that is that's a Native American omen. It's actually a good thing. But I mean, if you're seeing all this other stuff, I don't know.
Hang on a second. Let me get Robbie back on the screen.
There he is.
Now we play musical positions. Okay, there we go.
Okay. Funny, haha. Can we stop mentioning that we haven't lost me? Because this is getting annoying.
I knew it. I was like, as soon as they mentioned that, I was like, yep, we're going to lose him now.
And Greg has been the person that pointed it out. If nobody says anything, I don't get lost. Y'all seen that. The minute somebody mentions it.
E.D. Testerman says there's been 4 or 5 white buffalo born in the past 20 years or so.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, it's like there's a white buffalo calf like one every 4 or 5 million births. So for them to that's significant for one to pop up.
Yeah.
Boys, I think we've given ourselves a hell of a lot to think about tonight, and we've had some great comments from the folks in the chat. I really do wonder if the Jersey Devil might be something far older than the Leeds Devil.
Well, I mean, if it was already there and it just they just kind of built on what was already there, but that story just kind of took over the other story.
Well, look how many stories from different Native American tribes of Bigfoot they have. Yet it wasn't until European settlers started moving into the area they started using terms like wild man or hairy man. but all the tribes already had names for the thing.
Well, but the phenomenon really didn't take, even with those terms, it didn't take off until Bigfoot, which was in the 50s. I mean, so it's very well that something like that could have been there, could have predated all this Jersey Devil stuff.
True.
But they told the Jersey Devil story to explain what happened to them with whatever this other thing is.
Exactly.
And that, like we've talked about it before, Dogman, the term didn't exist till the 90s.
Bigfoot.
Well, same thing with mountain gorillas and the billy ape. The natives in the area had been talking about the things for years, and it wasn't until somebody from the British Museum or somebody from the National Geographic actually brought one in before they're like, "Oh yeah, we believe you now." Well, hell, they've been telling you for 100 years the damn things are there.
Yeah. Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah, they don't exist until some jackass from the British Museum sees one. Until then, oh no, that couldn't possibly exist.
Yep, there it is. I get to name it.
Yep. I saw it first. No, you didn't. They've been seeing it for 100 freaking years.
It's been out there for a minute, son.
Yeah. And I think if we really...
What happened?
Uh-oh.
What the heck just happened?
It's getting us all, man. It's getting us all.
Nuts.
It's getting us all.
Holy crap. I think if we dug deep enough into Native American lore and could go to the sources, talk to some of the tribal elders or their historians, I bet we would find that a lot of what we call cryptids today are things that they've been talking about for generations. And I would be willing to bet this is also the same case with the Jersey Devil.
Yeah, I 100%. Like we talked with Dogman. I mean, a term gets popular and catches on, and then all of a sudden, that's all that. We've had people on here that didn't know anything about the. They're like, I didn't really hear about this stuff until I heard the term Dogman. Mm-hmm. Well, werewolf, wolfman, all this kind of stuff. It's pretty much the same type of stories and lore and legend, but it's just, cynocephaly. People think that's different from a werewolf, and a werewolf is different from a wolfman. A wolfman is different from a dogman. And while there might be differences, and it may be a completely different thing, it's all in that same category. Let's just say a lycanthrope, for lack of a better term. I don't know if that would be the all-encompassing term.
Not so perfect Bigfoot show says I call them canine cryptids. But I agree with that. But I also think that at some point, all of the legends have one root.
Yeah.
There might be different types of these things. We simply just don't have enough information to know. Oops. But considering how far back legends of the cynocephaly go, these things have been here, since recorded history. Yeah. I mean, both the ancient Romans and the Greeks documented encountering these things. Marco Polo, Christopher Columbus, both documented encountering cynocephaly during the Vikings did. Yep. It's probably where the stories of the Oath Hednar came from.
Mm-hmm. They encountered Bigfoot type creatures, the Skraelings. Mm-hmm. So the point of that is every major culture across every continent on this planet has got some type of Bigfoot type creature, some type of canid type creature, werewolf, wolfman, whatever, canine, cryptid, whatever you want to call it. Some kind of spirit like the Jersey Devil, or
hell, even in the margins of the Pura Rice map, which is a map of Antarctica without ice on it, there are dogman and Bigfoot-like creatures drawn in the margins of this map.
So, like we've said, and we said it time and time again, there's a reason for all that. And the reason is because there's probably some truth, or a lot of truth, to these things and these stories, legends, however, some things may be embellished and have gotten added to them over the years. But if you drive it back to its core, there's something there that caused these things to be talked about and have cave pictures drawn of them and things like that. I mean, I've used the Inca stones many times. I mean, they couldn't get on the Googles and say, what does a T-Rex look like?
But they sure drew them on those Inca stones.
Yep. I don't think the Googles would have worked back then. Do you, Doc?
Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah,
They might not
5G
have.
sucked back then.
I don't know. The way our show's been going tonight, it may work better than what we got going on tonight. But I've just got a good feeling that 4,000 years ago when the Inca stones were made, I don't think the Googles was working as good as it works now.
Antonio Vasquez says, is Dogman and Bigfoot the same creature or just different types of animal? We don't know. Personally, I don't think Bigfoot and Dogman are the same thing at all. But that's just my opinion. That's just what I think based on my own sightings and my own experience. I could be 100% wrong. Again, we preface this all the time. There are no experts in this field, and anybody that's claiming they are is trying to sell you a bill of goods or sell you something. There are no experts, so you could be right. They could be the same creature. I don't feel that they are, just based on observation and account details, but it's entirely possible. I mean, we just don't know.
Yeah, I think that.
Kay Bauer says he caught the Googles once down in Mexico.
I had to go to the Walmarts to catch the Googles.
My dad used to call Walmart for some reason, like an AK on the end. Don't know why.
My mother-in-law still calls it the Walmarts.
Yep.
Walmarts.
Got to go to the Walmarts and buy one of them computers that's got the Googles on it.
The Walmarts, yeah.
But folks, just remember that everything that we consider a legend or a folklore story, every one of those has some basis in reality. There's something that inspired that story. Just how much truth there is to it, we don't know. But it's turning out that, especially when we're looking at indigenous lore, Native American lore, that it's far more right than we've ever given it credit for before. And that should terrify a lot of us, especially if we are seeing a return of Native American magic. If these creatures are nature spirits and they're gaining power, that means that times they are a changing. And I think we can all look at the shape of the world right now and know we're going to the hot place in a handbasket, and there's not much else we can do about it. But just hope and pray that it gets better. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best and prepare for the worst.
Yep.
So I'm not picking a political side. I'm just saying the world's in rough shape right now. No matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, the world's in a rough place right now. And unfortunately, it's going to take some rough deeds to put her right. Was it that George Orwell said, "People sleep safely in their beds at night only because rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalf."
Yep.
That's never been more true. Michelle Powell says, "Doc, you told me to email you my question about a med kit, but you haven't answered my email."
Nope, I have not, because I've been crazy busy. I have not had time to actually sit down and craft one out. So I did almost a 10-hour day in the shop tonight or today. So I will be, I'll promise you, I will be getting you squared away. And we're just trying to get some orders out because we're seriously backlogged. Thank you for reminding me, though. I've got it flagged. I got to sit down on Friday and do an admin day and get all my emails and everything out.
And another thing, folks, like I was saying, the world's in a rough spot, and that's why I enjoy what we do here as much as I do, because for a couple hours we can talk about something that's not world shattering. We can talk about something that still gives us a little bit of wonder in the world around us. wouldn't it be great if that kind of thing? But there are still places out there that are very magical, that are untouched by man, that are absolutely beautiful. And I firmly believe that creatures like Bigfoot and Dogman and the Chupacabra, I think those are very much part of a natural world we know very little about anymore because we've separated ourselves from it. And I can tell you, I felt more alive that night when we were in Combs Ferry, cut off from the rest of the world, than I felt in a long time. It was a wonderful feeling to be out there. Yeah, there were 7 of us, and yes, we were armed, but we were also, so far away from the modern world. We could have been, it could have been 100 years ago, could have been 500 years ago. There was literally nothing but us, and it was an incredible feeling. And it's something I'm planning to be doing again very soon now that I'm almost completely recovered from that. But folks, just because you think it's a legend and you don't believe in it doesn't mean it's not out there. So keep an open mind when you're out there in the woods, because that stick break might not be a deer. Boys, you got anything to add?
Yeah, it might be a deer hide hung in a tree.
Yeah, or
True.
the front leg of one.
Just
True.
the hide. There's nothing left of that deer at all. Just the hide.
Yep.
Nope.
So, folks, as we're starting to wind things up, I always mention the 22 a Day Foundation. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is 22 too many. Think of your veteran friends. Think of your first responder friends in whatever capacity, whether they're law enforcement, they're EMTs, medical field, firefighters. Although we tease those guys and call them second responders, but they face some pretty horrific stuff too. And there's always that good natured jibing between the service branches or between first responders, and it's all done in good fun. But let somebody else that hasn't been there try it, and then things get ugly. But you got that's just part of the nature of being part of that family, part of that brotherhood. But check on your friends that have worn any uniform in any capacity, because sometimes they're dealing with things that the human mind was not meant to comprehend, and they shouldn't have to face those demons alone. So mark your calendars on the 22nd of every month and use that as the day you reach out to all your first responder or veteran friends, and let's get 22 down to 0. And as we're winding things down, we've been closing the show out with a toast. So it doesn't matter what you got a glass of. I've got a Old Smoky Tennessee from Gatlinburg, Tennessee, blackberry whiskey. It's pretty tasty. Really like it. But we've been ending the show with a toast from an old Irish drinking song called "The Parting Glass," and I would hope you guys would lift a glass of whatever you're drinking. Doesn't matter. It could be anything. Water, doesn't matter. But help us close out the show with a toast, and these are for the ones we've lost along the way. And the quote says, "But since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night, and joy be to you all." Good night, everyone. Sláinte.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on Ex Machina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.